sharing my screen. Okay, let's share the screen. Maybe someone can give me a little sign whether you can see my screen actually.
Yeah, we can.
Yes, we can see it.
You can, great. Okay, then I think I'll start. So welcome everyone. I'm Verena. I'm a representative of SciLead, which means Science Leadership. I will talk a little bit more about us and about myself before we go deeper into the topic later. But yeah, I'm really excited to be here and happy that you made the time and are motivated to be here as well to start this 3 days workshop session, which is in 3 consecutive weeks and starting today, looking a little bit more deeper into leadership for scientists and for community builders. So again, we have these 3 different workshops, and today we will focus a little bit on basic leadership principles. Then I will talk a little bit about self-leadership, and we dive a little bit into one specific part of self-leadership and spend a little bit of time with our own values, defining our values, and coming up with a leadership statement for ourselves. That's the plan for today. I'm going to later say a little bit more about the next other 2 workshops as well. But in order to start and to get to know you maybe a little bit more, I would like to ask 2 questions. The first question is, what brought you here today? So we can do this either in a, you just unmute your microphone way and you just quickly say something, or you can also, if you don't have the chance for that, you can also write in the chat and I can just read it out loud in front of everyone. Yeah. I can also ask the second question at the same time. So if one doesn't really speak to you, maybe you have something to say to the other one. So basically, it's also a little bit about what do you expect from today, and also more general from the next 3 times where we speak a little bit more about leadership. So maybe I can get some idea of, yeah, what you also want to hear and adapt accordingly in the next 1.5 hours. Yeah, I see one hand up.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. First of all, what brought me here is basically I love to make contact with those in my community, and specifically, I want to see how other different leadership style that I can learn also to be able to be a great leader in my community as I go on the program.
Thank you very much for sharing. Anyone else wants to say something? Okay, I can see one more thing in the chat. Wangre, I hope I didn't pronounce your name completely wrong. Learning to be a leader in my community. Okay, that's great. I hope we can help you a little bit with this in the next few sessions. And yeah, if I don't see any more hands for now.
No,
so...
I see Steven's hand raised up, Verena.
Oh yeah, right. Oh yeah. Okay, Steven, sorry for that. Please go.
No problem. Thank you. What brought me here today? I'm here today because I want to learn about leadership. And after the workshop is finished, I expect to have learned some new leadership skills, which might be of help to me when in my community, when I will be doing the the trainings on open science, and also the skills will help me to also engage with those in various organizations and departments. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay, I see 2 more replies in the chat, so I'm going to read them out quickly and then we will continue. So Hafsat Ahmad wrote, I want to understand how better to be a leader in my field. Thank you for that. And Daniel wrote, the desire to know more about open science brought me here. I expect to bring the scientists and leadership skills together. That's also great. I hope we can manage. And then there's Mohammed. I want to learn about different types of leadership styles that can help me to be a good leader. Okay, so the general consensus is that everybody wants to learn about different styles. So I'm quite lucky that I have prepared some different styles to talk to you about. So yeah, maybe let's get started then. First, very briefly, just to let you know, because we will spend 3 weeks together, what is SciLead actually? I will just very briefly introduce us. So we are 4 women that founded the Sustainable Leadership for Science initiative that is based in Berlin in Germany. We founded it 4 years ago, and we shared this common vision of trying to improve leadership and mentorship in academia because we all had similar stories that we shared on how we did not experience exactly what we were looking for. And we also saw many of our friends and other very talented colleagues leave academia, and we decided that we want to do something against this. And so we founded this initiative, and we organize a lot of different workshop series, community events, just to basically grassroots movement style, like promote, advocate for leadership in academia and just to make people more aware of it. And so we also have a common vision that we define together, which is basically to create an academic environment that acknowledges and fosters leadership and mentorship as central pillars for good and reliable science. And with our work, we aim to empower to lead themselves and others while promoting sustainable practices that enhance the well-being and thriving of individuals at all levels of academia. So this is what we try to convey. And if you have any questions at any point, you can always just ask them. Maybe Emmanuel can also be a little bit aware of whether anybody raises their hand, because I'm also focusing a little bit on the slides, but I'm sure we'll manage. So just a few words also to me, so you know who I am and who you're spending time with today. So I'm originally German. My name is Verena Haage, and I'm a biologist by training. I studied my bachelor's and my master's degree in Germany mainly, but also spent some time in the UK, in Australia, and in Spain during these studies. Then I moved to Berlin, which is here in the northern eastern part of Germany, and did my PhD there, focusing on neuroimmunology. And I was then planning to go to the US for a postdoc, which I then did eventually, but for the pandemic time, I still spent this time in Germany because I could not enter the US. So I worked in a virology department for some time, and now since 3.5 years actually, I live in the States in New York, and I'm continuing to do neuroimmunology research there. So my journey to actually becoming a founding member of SciLead and promoting better practices and leadership in academia started with an article about traveling behavior among scientists to conferences actually. And through this and another meta-research conference that I got interested in, I then met all the other members in this Equator Conference, and we together founded SciLead. SciLead did also some research, and we performed a survey looking into leadership state, the state of leadership and mentorship in academia, which we published a few years ago. And then we performed all these different workshops and community building events. And then another stream of my activism journey, so to say, brought me to become an eLife ambassador. And I've been one since 2022. And that's actually where I also met Lamis and how we connected. And that's also probably plays a huge role in why I'm here today. And yeah, thanks again for the invitation to Emmanuel and Lamis. Okay, so now I would like to shift gears, and we actually come to the topic of today and also quickly of the next two workshops, so you know what you can expect. So as I already mentioned, today we will go more into basic concepts of leadership and not so much mentorship, more leadership. And we will at the end define our own leadership identity in a statement that you can take home with you and try to actually practice in your daily life. And in a second workshop next week, the plan is to focus more on leadership in communities, because this is what you eventually all aim to do, to lead communities and make them grow. And the third workshop, we planned to speak about and develop a toolbox for challenges and provide some tips for effective community building. If at any point later on you have a different wish for something, or you would really want to have something integrated in the next two sessions, just let me know. There will be a little bit of space in the end, and then we can see if we can make this happen in the next 2 weeks. So for today, I actually wanted to start with this slide here, which is basically creating a word cloud in order to have some general idea what leadership means to all of you. And now I'm not really aware of whether this is possible for all of you to scan this QR code and go onto this website. Maybe you can give me very briefly a reply whether you have the possibility to scan this QR code and go onto Slido and type in your leadership ideas, just some words that come up with you or for you with leadership as a general word. If this is not possible, we just don't bother about this website, and we can also just again write it into the chat, or you can unmute yourself and just say one word or two words that come into your mind. So whatever you think is easiest, we will just do. Okay, so I think I see some mixed replies. For some it is possible, for others it is a little bit more tricky. So maybe anyone else can give me a quick feedback so I know whether we do that or not.
Yeah, so Paul has the hand raised, Verena.
All right. Paul, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. I couldn't scan through the QR code because currently I'm using my Android phone to access the training, but I don't know if I can just say something about what leadership mean to me.
Yes, please. Let's do it as simple as possible. So yeah, please.
All right. To me, leadership means the process of knowing the way, going the way, and leading the way. That is by showing an example and at the same time following that example. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks a lot. So yeah, let's just keep doing it here. I guess that's the easiest. Steven is raising his hand.
Yeah, thank you, Verena. My understanding of leadership is that leadership is the ability to guide or influence others. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else?
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
I think leadership is the ability to guide and reach a success through interactive contributions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, let me say something also.
Yes, please, please.
Yes, sometimes I usually say leadership is a habit that is being developed over time for a specific period of time because why I say so, every person before you are going to be a leader is something that you do learn from others, and before you learn from others you must have been doing it over a time before you can be doing that. So I think it's an habit developed in a specific period of time to be able to guide others and also influence others.
Thank you. Yeah, so you say it's also experience-based to execute leadership properly. Yeah. I also see Daniel raised his hand.
In my opinion, leadership is the art of influencing others. As short as that.
Thank you very much, Daniel. I also see in the chat some people wrote, there is Sotonia. Leadership is managing people and resources to achieve or set a goal or objective. Thank you. Then Sarah, for me, leadership is one word. It means to inspire people. Then Joseph said it's to conduct a team to achieve a goal. Very similar to the upper one. Thank you. And Thomas said leadership is a responsibility to guide and collaborate with the team to achieve intended goals. And Wangre says it's the ability to lead other individuals to achieve certain goals. Okay, there's a lot of consistency across that understanding. And then there's also Mohammed.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Yeah, as my understanding, leadership means ability of a person to lead a group toward the success of intended objective of an organization.
Great, thank you so much. Thanks,
Okay,
everyone. Thank you, Mohammed. Okay, I think for the sake of time, thanks for all your contributions. I'm going to go ahead and start a little bit more with the sort of theoretical approach. And first thing I would want to show you or to explain are that there are different levels of leadership. And these are quite important if we think about it, because so it's like a little pyramid, which I'm going to explain you here a little bit. So this is taken from a book that is written by Aaron Singh and Mike Mister. And basically what they say is that the foundation of leadership is always leading myself, or self-leadership. And then in the next level, it basically, you can transfer this leadership skill to somebody that is close to you, like a team or one other person, like a colleague, basically leading me to leading you. And then if we go higher in the complexity of this pyramid of leadership, we come also higher in complexity of social structures. So we come from a team to an organization, or we come from a second individual to a community, which is basically what you are all here for, leading, and what is also applying to SciLead, if I speak about, so to say, the way I'm leading also in our initiative. And so, yeah, basically these are the 3 different levels, and we can also translate from team to you and from organization to community. It depends where we all come from, but at the basis we have leading ourselves. So actually this is already the first part where I would like to have a little group session, where maybe we take 5 to 6 minutes, and about 3 to 4 people per group, to just share your experiences in leadership, and which levels have you experienced, and are you, for example, aware that self-leadership is important for leading others, and have you experienced already this upper part of the pyramid to lead an organization or a community, or what's your general experience? And so for this, I would love us to be in small groups. So maybe we could make 5 or 4 groups of 4, or 5 groups of 3 to 4 people. So I'm not super experienced with the breakout rooms. Emmanuel, do you think you could help me with that?
Yeah, I could do that. If you want me, should I do it now?
That would be great, yes.
Yeah.
Thank. So yeah, I think if it's better to do this in the small groups, because you can actually everybody will get to talk for a little bit, like 1 or 2 minutes. If we do it in the big round, not everybody will be able to share. And also, of course, don't feel obliged to share, but just encourage to share. So I think the invitations should be out there right now.
Yeah.
Okay, I think people are joining slowly. I'm gonna set a timer. In room 4, there's only Thomas for now. Let's see if we can maybe put him somewhere else. Okay. Thanks, Emmanuel. That you all I hope you had some nice discussions. I hope there was enough time to talk a little bit about your experiences. I would just go on now with speaking a little bit about different leadership styles. And so, like, one important thing to know is, wait, there's someone that is not muted. Maybe Howard, maybe we can mute you because there's some background noise. Unless you wanted to say something, then of course we listen. Okay, so I'm talking a little bit about the different leadership styles that there are. And one thing that is important is there are so many, like so as many styles as if you look at this flower meadow. I was doing quite a bit of research, and it was not so easy to find the ones to present today because there are so many. And so just be aware that I can only present you a little overview of some that spoke to me the most, but this is not the only styles that are out there. There are many, many more. So we just get a little bit of an overview today, but don't go too much into depth today. But maybe one style or one concept that I will present to you will speak to you, and then of course, feel free to just dive a little deeper into it. But so I would like to introduce these 7 different concepts very briefly to you, and then focus on one of those a little bit more in depth. So this is a big wheel here, describing different leadership styles, and we will start here. I will just walk you briefly through them, and we will start with the one at 12 o'clock. I'm going to walk you clockwise through them. So one is autocratic leadership. This basically means that the leader decides everything, that there is no big debate on what is going to be achieved or anything, but the leader just has full control. And usually the impact of this leadership style is that people don't feel very motivated necessarily. The moral is not so high. Creativity might be a little bit impaired, but this is a very effective leadership style in moments of crisis, when somebody needs to take big decisions and everybody just needs to follow in order to make it through a certain period of time. And so the adaptation of this leadership style, according to Veronique Barrault, who made this wheel here of concepts, is to reserve this one only for emergencies. So usually the team should be involved. Which brings me to democratic leadership. This is actually kind of the opposite to autocratic leadership. Here, the leader actually consults with the team. They share the same values, and there's a lot of collaboration happening in the team. And the impact of this leadership style is that people are more motivated and encouraged, and it fosters also ownership. So everybody feels like part of a bigger team and feels through this more motivated and engaged. And this is very good to be adapted for consensus building situations. Then the next style here on the right lower part is called laissez-faire leadership. And this, like laissez-faire already implies, basically means that there is very little guidance and that the team leads, but the leader is rather in the background. And the impact of this leadership style, it can probably happen that this is not very much chosen by certain leaders, because the impact of this type of leadership is actually that it can cause confusion to some people. But at the same time, a positive thing is that it can also promote autonomy. Maybe some people experienced this during their PhDs, that they were a little bit less guided on their hands, and then their autonomy and independence grew a lot. But this is actually already, this is a great thing for teams that are already very skilled and self-directed. So maybe in the science world, this could be better working for a postdoc than for a PhD. Then there's the transformational leadership, which is on the bottom at 6 p.m. And this is basically a leadership style that is guided through a common vision or a common goal. Like many of you were saying that for you, in your definition, a leader basically promotes a common goal. And here it's a shared vision that everybody supports, and therefore everybody is basically loyal, and people are encouraged to also develop based on the common journey towards this vision. And this is very effective in change or goal-driven contexts, which could also be, and I think which is definitely the SciLead context, and which could also be very well the context of your communities that you're building. Then there's transactional leadership, which basically is really understood like a sort of a transaction between the leader and between the workers or the other team members. And so there's goal setting, but then in order to achieve those goals, there's either a punishment or rewards offered. This drives results very effectively, but this also pushes down creativity or undermines creativity because it's very result oriented. And this can be used for, for clarity and accountability, but should be balanced. And then one more is servant leadership, which actually means that the leader itself, he or she, goes into a serving role and prioritizes the team needs over his or her own needs. And so this is very effective in building trust and fostering support for the team. And it really fosters a positive culture for working and empowers every single member of the team because they feel like their needs are really taken very well into account. And then there is one more leadership style. I know that this is a lot right now, but I just want to give you like this little overview here, which is situational leadership. And this basically refers to an adaptive style of leadership and adapting to the different tasks of the team and also to the sort of developmental or maturity level each team member is in. So it's flexible and it boosts performance because depending on what you need as a team member, the leader might just adapt their style. And yeah, support needs to be adjusted accordingly. And it's a very flexible style. And I would love to go a little bit closer into this style on the next slide and discuss this a little bit more. So this is now zooming into the situational leadership style. I found this interesting because as we also, especially in academia, but also if beginning to bigger growing of a community, we evolve a lot in our roles, and basically the ones that are leading can adapt and might also should know how to adapt to your different team members, how they are actually evolving and what to do in which given situation. So this is called Hersey-Blanchett situational leadership model. And we basically have two axes. One is supportive behavior from the leader towards the team member, and the other one is directive behavior, which is more task focused. The supportive behavior is more relational focused. So the relationship between the leader and the team members. And so there are then 4 different levels that are kind of evolving, but they are not only one directed. This is not just one direction, but so if we go from a low supportive behavior on the bottom left and a low directive behavior we start with a delegating leadership style, which basically is something like, oh, I've seen that you can organize events very well. Maybe you can just, this is just an example sentence, so it's easier to understand what this actually means, but I've seen you do this very well, so maybe you might want to organize this for us and then present it to us. This would be delegating. I'm sure all of us have experienced this in some way. And then if we go up in the supportive relational behavior and still in the low directive behavior, we come to a supporting leadership style, which basically could sound something like, I'm here for you if you need me. Let me know what you need or how I can support you throughout your project. This is also something that, for example, I'm right now performing with my PhD students after they are going from a training level more towards a little bit more independent level. Then there's the coaching level, which is basically you provide high support and you also provide a high directive. So there's a lot of engagement from the leader towards this style. for the coaching style. And a coaching style, like example could be, you can do this and I know that you are able to perform this. So it's more directing someone towards a given goal and supporting them also morally, that you know that they can do it, and you are there if they need you. And then there's the directing leadership style, which is basically lower in support and more giving orders or directives. And this then would be something like, oh, you would need to prepare this graph of this and this experiment for tomorrow because I need to present it at a conference. So please send it to me by tomorrow. So these are the 4 different angles of the situational leadership model. And in order to be a situational leader, there's a certain number of characteristics needed, and so, or qualities needed. And so I already mentioned that these leaders should be very flexible, should be very adaptable, because you actually, as the leader, you kind of watch a maturity curve of your team members, and you try to adapt your leadership style depending on what they need in order to still achieve the goals of your group or of your community. So insightfulness and trust are also 2 important words here for the situational leader, and problem solving. And I chose this model because I think this actually applies quite well. Applies quite well to academia. And since this is an academia-driven event and community, I decided that, or I thought that this would be great to know for everyone. So yeah, this is it about the situational leadership. And I think, in the next 5-6 minutes, I would love you to go again into groups. They might be different to the ones that you had before, and to basically reflect a little bit on whether you already experienced situational leadership before, and if so, whether you were led in a certain way, or you recognize certain behaviors or patterns that you already applied of situational leadership, but you were just not aware that this is situational leadership. So just to reflect a little bit in a small group, as we did before, on the different levels of leadership. And yeah, for this, I'm just going to send you again into some breakout rooms. Let me see if I manage. I hope you can see some invitations now.
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay, then let me do one more click here and see if this works. No. Because some people, I think, are already in a room.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think it worked for most. Okay. I'm going to add Clara to one room. Otieno 2. Okay. There's only one person in the room. It's not good. I hope you had a good conversation. Most likely it was a little bit too short in time. But I still have a lot of things that I would like to share with you. So we had to take a decision to take you back. So yeah, so going from the situational leadership, I would love to actually show you an additional concept. And this concept is a little bit more based on emotions and on self-awareness. And this is basically called emotional intelligence as a key to leadership. This is imprinted by Daniel Goleman, who is an American psychiatrist, and he's also a journalist, and he wrote several different books about emotional intelligence. I put this in quotes because it's a little bit debated whether this term actually exists. But what is the most important part here is that he basically claims that the basis of any successful leader are 4 different things. Self-awareness, which basically describes that you are aware of your emotions and your strengths and also your weaknesses, and that you can actually manage them. That's why there's written self-management, that you can contain your emotions, that you can use and access your strengths at the right time, and that you are also aware of your weaknesses, and that you can also maybe use or maybe be aware of your weaknesses in a given time as a leader. Then the third one is social awareness, which basically means that you can read the room. Like, for example, me right now trying to read the room, whether you are all falling asleep or whether you are still here and you actually enjoy the different concepts that I'm presenting to you. So that you just have this feeling of whether people are feeling okay or whether they are disconnected or whether there's a conflict that you should be aware of. And then the fourth pillar of this emotional intelligence is relationship management, which is actually relating to conflict, or conflict is at the core. Basically means that you are able to manage relations, and at its most extreme and most challenging form, that you can manage conflict well. And so this is one quote by Daniel Goleman that I really enjoyed and that I wanted to share with you, and which is saying that the best leaders don't just know one style of leadership, but they are skilled at several different styles, and they have the flexibility to switch between styles as the circumstances dictate. And this is also a little bit close to the situational leadership that we saw before. The only difference here is that these 4 pillars that are more related to the self and to the self-management are a little bit more in the center here. And so he has also 6 different leadership styles described that are basically covered by the central pillars. And these are the 6 different styles that he recommends an emotional intelligent leader to use in order to be successful in leadership. And so I'm just going to walk you briefly through those. And there are also some that are actually already familiar to you from the situational leadership. So there you can see that there are many different concepts, but some of those concepts are also very similar, and they are just tiny little things changed or little influences from different streams that then basically led to different and new concepts. So if we start here again at the upper right part, coaching leadership, we already also met in the previous situational leadership model. So I don't have to describe here too much, but basically means that you support team members, you empower them, that they are able to grow and to become better individuals and professionals. I find it very important here to also look at the become better individuals and not only professionals, because this goes hand in hand, and it should never just be focused on one or the other, at least in the professional context here. Then there's visionary leadership, which is built on inspiring and motivating people to pursue a long-term vision. this is also a little bit similar to the transformative leadership that we already encountered. And that might also be something that is actually quite important or could work really well in building up communities to bring open science into your communities. Then there's pace-setting leadership on the lower right, which basically focuses more on the performance and the results. So here the leader acts as a role model to follow, and people need to be very excellent in what they produce. But this is not so much focused on team development or team or culture in the team. It's really like producing results. Then democratic leadership is also one style that we already saw before, which basically means people participate in leadership decisions, everything is being discussed, and there's a lot of dialogue and consensus seeking within within the process and within the team. Then the next one is affiliative leadership, which basically refers to growing personal bonds and more striving towards well-being of the team, and rather focusing on harmony rather than results. It's kind of the opposite to the pace-setting leadership, which is really only focusing on producing value and producing products. And the last one is commanding leadership. Can also be called directive or coercive leadership. Whatever wherever you look at, you might find these different explanations or descriptions of this style. And this is again telling rather people to do what they should be doing and what not to do. And according to Daniel Goleman, there are two of those styles that are a little bit problematic and that are only to be applied when it's really necessary in a given situation. And that this is actually the commanding leadership, which is this very directive, telling people what to do, and the pace setting, which is also not taking the team into account. And according to him, all the other leadership styles are really focusing also on harmony building, so that everybody feels trusted and feels like they can actually grow, and they then also build trust and stick around more. And so that's why I put this harmony sign here. So he recommends to use all of those styles, but also whenever they are needed. But according to him, also the leader has to be sort of aware of a given situation and the context, and then apply whatever seems to be the right thing in this given situation to use as a style for leadership. So now I had actually planned a group session again. Maybe though, because we are actually running quite low on time. I mean, there are still things that I would love to do together. I maybe would say that we take only 4 minutes to do this group session together here in the round, and whoever wants to share, let's say maybe we can do 2 or 3 people sharing, whether they have experience with this emotional intelligence as a key to leadership, or whether they are aware of this concept, or whatever comes to your mind. If you listen to the last few slides with me, just feel free to share. I think I will take 3 people, if there are 3 people, and then we proceed to the next part. And there's also a question here to ask whether commanding leadership is the same as autocratic leadership. And I think, yes, it is. I would say so. It also came to my mind, and it might also very well be that it was just given a little bit of a different name, even though it refers to a similar style, but to maybe fit a little bit more into a newer concept that was proposed by one versus the other one. So yes, I would say so. Okay, I can see one hand by Paul. Paul, do you want to say something?
Yes, I just want to contribute to since we are not going into group sessions, so I just want to contribute to my experience with emotional intelligence in my leadership. And I've experienced a lot leading people, leading organization since 2005. I've been leading different organizations, and that has really developed me emotionally. And at times before, I used to be so irrational in my behavior, my attitude at times, but all that has really nurtured my attitude, nurtured my character now, because before, now to talk now, I cannot, at times I have to be reserved before responding. Even when people are bullying me, I have to calm down so that I soak that in to absorb into my system. But then I'll just, at times they tell me, my subordinates, they usually tell me that I'm so gentle for them, that after all, you are doing this and you are an achiever, you do this, you do that. But then I've varied it because I discovered that most leadership don't know how to control their emotion. And because of that, they cannot really relate well with people. They cannot really relate well with the organization. So that's my take. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing your personal experience. Thanks. I think Howard was the next one raising hand.
All right. Okay. I think comparing between emotion and leadership, I believe an instance you gave earlier, which you categorize leadership being in levels. Leadership, first of all, leading yourself, the next becoming leading a team, and the next becoming leading an organization. So the more you go up that ladder, the more you see that your emotional intelligence becomes so strong. If you are categorically putting it through, either you are passing through a bachelor's degree, then you go over to a master's, then a PhD, you see your interpretation of basic facts becomes quite different between what you see in reality and what you actually give out. So the area I want to make an interwoven between the situational leadership style, the category, is the one in which I have been able to mediate between delegating and directing. In some situation, just like the person you make reference to, they said in every situation you kind of apply a particular leadership style. So I try as much as possible to give direction to my subordinates. In that terms, I delegate responsibility to them. So I do it in a way that somebody will not come back and said, okay, you are not giving me that avenue for me to showcase myself. So after giving my direction, I give the delegation so that they can also do their own part. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Howard. Very, very good to hear everyone's experience. Yeah. You want to say something again?
No, my hand is still raised up.
Your hand was still raised. Okay, great. I think there was one more hand up before, but now I don't see the hand anymore.
Yeah, that was Sotonia.
Okay.
Sotonia,
that was
if you are there,
mine.
you
That
can
was
just
mine.
mute it.
Do you still want to say
Okay,
something?
okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
We
My
can
hand
hear
was raised. Yeah, I wanted to share my experience. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
Hi, we can hear you well.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay,
Yes, we can.
okay. I wanted to share my experience on leadership as regards to emotional intelligence. Sometime last year, I was privileged to lead a group of students on an assignment, and I delegated and gave task to the students to come back in a week so that we can discuss. And I noticed that when we reconvened, I noticed that a very bright student was not doing what he ought to do. He wasn't bringing out what I expected.
The connection is a little bit interrupted, unfortunately.
To do of the meeting, I had to prod further. Are you still hearing me? Hello?
It was
Yes, we can hear, but your network is cracking.
Yeah. Okay, it's raining where I am, so I am sure it's affected.
Unfortunately, it's got interrupted, so Tonya. Maybe do you want to?
I don't know if you can hear me.
It's always interrupting. Do you mind sharing? Maybe you can write down your experience. Thank you, though, for sharing. And I think for the sake of time, I'm sorry, Clara, but I think we would need to go and continue with the program or with the slides. Or you want to be very, if you can do it very short, then let's do it. Please.
Okay, I'll make it short. My experience in emotional intelligence has to do with a particular project I'm coordinating. I'm in an academic institution. So it's a coordinating project of undergraduates. So it's a tenured position, and the person before me assigned students different supervisors. And when that was done, I noticed there was so much complaint, both from the supervisors and the students. And after that, the second year it was given to me. And because of that experience I knew about, what I did was now to share students among different departments. And then the head of department now assigned them different supervisors. And last year, I noticed the complaint was reduced. So this year, what I now did was now to ask the students to indicate the department they want to do their project, and most of them indicated. And I had to work based on that, and I noticed that everybody was happy this time. So that's just my little contribution. Thank you.
Thank you, Clara. Thanks a lot. Okay, so we have officially we have 15 minutes left. It might be that we are a little bit longer busy, but we will just see how it goes in the next few minutes, and then we can see how far we get, and if it would be maybe fine for you to stay 5 or 10 more minutes longer. But so in the last part, I actually want to go to self-leadership. And so I want to make this turn because it's at the bottom of the pyramid. We've talked about it and mentioned it a little bit over the last few minutes, and also as we talked about emotional intelligence, and there are so many self-awareness, self-management, relationship management, so many words with self. I thought it would be good to also focus a little bit on the basis and on self-leadership. So we don't have too much time right now, but I still want to go into the basics and basically tell you where it's coming from. It was first described in 1983 as sort of a comprehensive self-influence perspective that concerns leading oneself toward performing of naturally motivating tasks, as well as managing oneself to do work that must be done but is not naturally motivating. So basically, Charles Mans here says that self-leadership is not only navigating what you actually are motivated for and what you really feel like you have to do, but also to find the drive within yourself to achieve the things that are necessary, but that are not necessarily only the ones that you want to do. So basically to have sort of also the discipline to get where you want to get. And then a few years later, in 1991, in a publication, he was also the first one, together with Sims, another scientist, to put self-leadership as a prerequisite for effective and authentic team leadership, which basically provides the basis for putting self-leadership at the bottom of the pyramid that we saw before. And now I would love to share one model of self-leadership with you, which I found there are not too many models around, and there's also not a really common definition, so to say, of self-leadership that is easy to find and to extract and to present to you. But what I found is a model called positive self-leadership capability model, which was published by a scientist from South Africa and from the University of Western Cape. And her definition is basically that positive self-leadership refers to the capacity to identify and apply one's signature strengths to initiate, maintain, or sustain self-influencing behaviors. And so she has a model, and this is the last model, I promise, that I want to show you today. So if you focus on the middle, there are 4 core capabilities, according to the model, that we all have. And these core capabilities are they are dynamic, and they are all needed in order to actually have positive self-leadership and enabling us for our competencies. And so they are, first of all, character strengths. And from those character strengths, you can basically subordinate or decipher specific competencies, delineate them. So these are decision-making and strength-based, also recovery, or resilience, so to say. Then another core capability is interests and aspirations. And that's like a purposeful vision, authentic engagement in your tasks. Then another capability, according to this model, is environmental strength, which refers to your network, to all the relationships that you built up over time and that are high quality connections, not only necessarily in science or in a professional way, but also individual private connections that make you strong and provide a safety net for you. And another capability are your abilities and talents. And from those, you can basically derive competencies that are psychological capital, mindfulness, and also job crafting, basically the ability to find your own job, to craft a job that is good for you. And if we stay with competencies, there are 8 core competencies and skills that I found that are important, that I've found doing my research on self-leadership, that I want to share here with you, and that lead us also to the last part of the workshop. So one of them is identifying desired experiences. And to be very clear, we could do a workshop on each of these competencies itself. So this is very dense, but just to give you sort of a little glimpse of what it actually means to lead ourselves. So identify desired experiences. Then constructive thinking and decision-making. Planning and goal setting. That was also mentioned quite a lot in the beginning. Then it's also embracing failure and cultivating grit, which I think we in science are pretty exposed to. It's amplifying performance. How do you amplify your performance? How do I motivate myself to be performing better? And then harnessing the ecosystem, which again refers to all the connections, all the network you built up. And optimizing your motivation. The last thing here is then self-awareness and self-knowledge. And there are many different little parts in the self-awareness and self-knowledge bubble, such as your personal traits, your strengths, your weaknesses, your talents and interests, which we've seen before, and also your values. And actually, in the last few minutes, what I wanted to do is to focus specifically on the values and to take a little bit of time for us to reflect on the values that are important for us personally, but also professionally, and to see which kind of values or what values do you actually want to embody in your professional environment, and also in the community that you want to build and set up and inspire people to join. And so basically, core values are related to leadership effectiveness. They are deeply intertwined and they basically navigate us and our leadership in guiding and making decisions and in acting in a certain way, and also in creating a culture that we actually want to promote and that we also want to work in and spend time in. And so basically now the idea is to ask this first question mainly. So how aware are we of our core values? And so if you agree and if you are up for staying another maybe 10 minutes longer than the actual workshop time, I would like to invite you to actually look into your core values a little bit closer and spend maybe the next, let's say, 2 to 3 minutes. And you can see the slide here with a bunch of different values. They don't have to, they are not the values that you have to pick. They are just an inspiration and sort of an idea of what kind of words we're looking for. But maybe each of you take 2 minutes to define your core values. I know this is a very short amount of time, but I'm going to share these slides with you afterwards, and you are very welcome to also do this a little bit more in depth afterwards. So basically, I'm going to start stopping the time now for 2 minutes, and I invite you to pick out between 3 to 5 of those values that speak to you and that you think that are important for you. And yes, some of you already started to share them in the chat. That's great. That was actually the next idea, but for the sake of time, I think it's great whenever you have them, feel free to share them.
Sorry, please, I didn't get the question. What's the question?
Sorry, Clara, could you repeat, please?
I said I did not get your question.
Ah, do you see the slide with the different values?
Yes, yes.
So the idea is to basically pick the ones that speak to you with regards to how you want to be as a leader. How do you want to be defined as a leader, and what is important to you? For example, is integrity important for you, or respect, or whatever speaks to you?
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Okay, I see already a lot of you sharing.
Okay, are we required to just share or speak?
Oh, you can do both, whatever you want. We will keep this fairly short. I think some of you saw the next slide, which was basically let's share them, but we will not do it through this QR code because it didn't work so well, and already many of you wrote them down in the chat. And I think if you wanted, you could maybe one or two of you can also speak them out, if you also don't have the chance to write down in the chat with your phone or so. But yeah, just to get a general idea of what is important for you. So there are many different ones. I cannot read them all out, but like Thomas wrote determination, truth, and truth again. And Joseph wrote acceptance, justice, and professionalism. Paul wrote truth, honesty, communication, responsibility, and integrity. Sutonia wrote professionalism, respect, integrity, and trust. Then Wang Gray wrote equality, patience, responsibility, and connection to others. Ernest wrote integrity, responsibility, and honesty. And Yvonne wrote self-awareness, positivity, confidence, resilience, professionalism, and courage. Great. Thank you all. And so in the last 5 minutes, I had this idea to basically give everyone another 2-3 minutes to write their own leadership statement based on the core values. And so as an example, I want to give you my leadership statement. I also just did this recently in a workshop, and I found it really nice to have a written statement present that I can also look at and sometimes remind myself of what means leadership to me and what do I actually want to do, especially in times that are not so easy. And so my leadership statement is, my leadership purpose is to create a space for others to develop themselves, to grow, to be approachable, transparent, supportive, and empowering, and to create a culture that combines ambition, personal and professional goals with joy. And so this is just to give you a little example of how your own leadership statement based on the values that are important to you could look like. So in the next, let's say, take another 3-4 minutes, I would invite you to write this down. If you want to, well, you could also just answer to this question: what kind of leader do you want to embody? And then you can write, the kind of leader I want to embody is, or has these and these characteristics. You could also write, my leadership purpose is. This is completely up to you. I would just give you 3 more minutes now for this, and then we will do a little bit of sharing of maybe 3 or 4 people's statements, and then I would close the workshop. So I'm going to give you this time to write and stop talking for this moments. It's 2 more minutes. If any of you is done, maybe you can just put an emoji so I know more or less whether we need the full 3 minutes or whether you are already ready. Okay, so we have like 30 more seconds. And thanks for staying over time already. Okay, that was my phone. So the time would be over. I see some people already shared also their statements. Maybe I can read the 2 that shared already. Actually, more than 2 shared already. So Michael wrote, my leadership purpose is to ensure fair, professional, and trustworthy leadership that fosters collaboration within the open science community. Thank you. And Ernest wrote, my leadership goal is to empower a free environment of people, building a net of integrity, responsibility, and honesty to promote the dynamic social space for everyone. Beautiful. And Joseph wrote, my leadership statement is to contribute accepting each other, practice justice among members of my team, and show professionalism in the job we aim to accomplish for the best results. Thank you. And I'm going to read 2 more. Sarah wrote, I want to be a leader who creates a space where every voice is heard and valued. I aim to bring joy to our work, fostering a positive and motivating environment. I want to build trust through honesty and support, empowering everyone to grow and succeed together. Wonderful. And Yvonne wrote, my leadership goal is to enable my community believe in their power to bring change. Great. Yeah, so thank you all for sharing. Since it's already 6:10, if there is someone that really wants to share their statement, read it out, please feel free to do this now.
Hello?
Yes?
Yes, my leadership purpose is to be responsible to the people that I lead, to communicate effectively, to be honest, truthful, and to be a man of integrity.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Paul. Thank you. All right, so we have a lot of shared statements here. That is great. That was the purpose of the next slide. So we already did that. So I hope that with these statements, you have something tangible that you can take away from this workshop, and maybe something that can guide you a little bit in building up your communities. Maybe you can refine it. Maybe you can actually have a statement together with your community at some point. And I think with this, I would actually close the workshop for today. Thank you all so much for staying over time. It's not a given thing. I really appreciate it, especially with a workshop that already takes for more than 90 minutes of time. And the last slide I'm showing here is basically just a little feedback for me. It's called ROTI, or Return on Time Invested, where you, if you feel like you want to openly share, you could really just put like some little numbers or emojis that are either smiley or not so smiley, or like a ranging from 1 to 5. If you were not so happy with the workshop, you can put a 1 or 2. If you were more happy with the workshop, you could put a higher number, just for me to get a little bit of an idea of what you, how you perceive this workshop. And I think I'm going to finish now with the outlook for next week, which is leadership of communities or in communities, followed then by a toolbox for challenges and tips for effective community building in 2 weeks. And now I'm gonna really close it with our thank you slide, thanking all our partners and thanking especially you for staying here for so long and for attending so interactively. So yeah, thanks a lot. If you want to say anything, feel free to unmute yourselves, and just, otherwise I wish you have a nice rest of your day, and I will see you then next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Verena. It was a wonderful session. I think we learned a lot about ourselves today that maybe we did in a long time. I think most of the times you would be leading or you'd be in such positions, but you don't really think about the identity that you are kind of implementing during the process of leading people. So I think it is a wonderful session, and I think even after the session, it's an opportunity for us to reflect on what we've learned and then know exactly how we've been leading, and then maybe if there are areas that we need to improve or change, I think we can do that. So thank you so much, Verena. In the absence of any question, we would say bye-bye to everyone and see you at our next session, everyone. Yeah, bye.
Thank you, Emmanuel, and thanks everyone again. See you next week.
Bye-bye.